Hello. I think I am live. We're going to do the usual let's see. Hang on. Am I doing this right? We will see. Bear with. This could go horribly wrong. Okay. Back in a second, guys. Don't go away. Oh no, maybe we are. Are we live? Okay. For those who know me, know that this is a regular occurrence and I frequently get this wrong. So what I am going to do is pop to my channel and see exactly what's happening and see if there's anything actually happening. And it does say that I am live, so that's marvellous. It also says there's one person watching, which I do believe is me on my other phone. All good fun, isn't it? So, we are live. Hurrah! It is working. So what are we going to be doing today? Well, today I thought what I'd like to do is to paint one of my little minis. Now, I thought I was organised this morning and I'm not. So bear with. Oh, the joys of a live stream where you actually leave the room for a while. So, what are we doing? We're doing minis. What are minis? Well, they're these cute little things. So, what I've discovered are these really great 7x7. This is the one I started and then abandoned, but I will redo this. 7x7 little mini canvases, which are super cute. And really useful. And what I like doing is doing miniature life studies because they're very cute, as you can see. Totally, I love that half-eaten banana. They're really cute. You can use everyday objects and they're just really fun and they are really, really good for training your eye. So if you are about to start a big piece or you're working on something and sometimes it takes a little while to get your eye in, you know what I mean? So what I do is I will do a little mini oil study, which takes about an hour, and then I'll head into my big paintings and planning and things like that. After that, it's kind of like a warm-up exercise, but they are slightly addictive. So how do I go about painting them? So let me show you, because it's easier to show than just to talk about it. So do please, if you have any questions throughout any of this, anything that I'm not explaining clearly or you're not sure about, drop it in the chat. I do have the chat open. It's now saying I need to confirm that I am me. Hold on. Why does this all... I even logged on early this morning. It is this morning for me. I don't do mornings, guys. If I'm looking a little dishevelled and all the rest of it, it's because that, yeah, mornings and me... no. You're here. Yay! Easy Eco Life with Karen. Thank you so much. I've now finally managed to see my chat. Always a start, isn't it? So let's crack on. What are we going to do today? Well, I've got a turnip because, as you've gathered by my little minis, the theme tends to be vegetables, fruit, because there's always something like that lying around. And I like to, and this is something I say in my sketch club, in my academy, everything, make things easy. So if you're wanting just to practice to get your eye in, get ordinary objects, draw the kitchen towel, draw a random vegetable, do things, because these aren't for, well, actually the minis now, I have created a whole series and I've gone a little bit overboard, but normally sketching or something like that, it's not for anybody else, it's just for you, it's just for practice. So it doesn't matter what the subject is, just draw anything at all. And there is beauty in anything. And if you train your mind to be able to see the beauty and interest in just everyday objects, then you have you've got no end of things to paint, and all of a sudden everything just gets, oh, I can paint it all, and then it gets a little bit ridiculous. But it does mean that you never run out of inspiration, which is amazing. So let's have a little look. So what I've done is what I will do actually, because you don't want to see me, you want to see painting. Let me turn my cam link on. So, and put my light on so that you can actually see what I'm doing. Where's my light? There we go. So I put my palette up on my easel next to my little canvas so that you can easily see what's going on. I've also taken a picture of said turnip because it's all blurry there. So if you are wanting to watch this and then watch it again, I'm trying to find the picture that I took of it, bear with. There we go. And watch it again later and have a play. You feel free. It's going to be on I'm going to move this over here, then you can see more of my palette, so you can see what I'm mixing and what I'm doing. I'll also straighten that up a bit so that it looks a bit easier for you. Move my easel out the way. Right. And I don't like not being able to have eye contact with people. So I have a little thing here where I can, hello, there's two of me, hurrah. Probably the worst thing you've ever thought. Right, let me move this to one side. No, wrong thing. Move this thing to one side because I don't want to be interrupting your view of what's actually happening. So, how do I start when I'm starting a still life? So first I've got my palette and I've got my colours laid out. Now I'll move my palette along a bit and I'll explain a little bit about this because every artist has a different way of setting up their palette. This is oil paint. I am a chaotic painter, so it's a bit chaos. But there is a little bit of order-ish to the chaos. So I start warm and I end up cool. So that's kind of where I would have done the alizarin crimson on the other side of the phthalo blue, but phthalo blue has a lot of green in it and I wanted it next to sap green and I wanted that next to the bright green, which is warm. So that's why the palette kind of evolved that way. And I end up on this side with the dark browns, and up in the corner I've got black, and up in that corner I have white. It's an order that works for me. You have to find the order that works for you. Every artist will tell you pretty much similar. People do tend to do a warm to cool. It's the reason I stick to the same order-ish is because that way I don't have to think and I don't accidentally put my brush in the wrong paint. I kind of know where it is. So back to actual painting, Susan. So the other thing I would suggest is with your brushes, try and keep a brush. So normally I have this brush for my lights, this brush for my darks, this brush for my background, and this brush for anything sort of a lighter colour. So I try, doesn't always work, to keep my brushes so that they're going to be reasonably organised. Kitchen towel obviously is a must because I wipe my brushes in between times with kitchen towel. And then for a medium, I don't like using solvents because my studio is in my home. So I use a little bit of linseed oil and I just use that these days. I used to use Gamsol. Gamsol is good, it's odourless. But it's just, yeah, I just like sticking to one thing because it makes it easy, and I am a bear of little brain. So there'll be various people who know me going, no, you're not. So let's start, shall we? So what I'm going to start, and this is how I start any still life, is I want to draw an outline because I'm covering my canvas in phthalo blue. It's my new favourite blue. It's very green though. It's all the phthalos are a little bit in your face. So I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. So it does have a very green tone, so I don't want it going anywhere near anything that may be yellowish. And there are some golden tones in this turnip, especially at the top. There's some kind of there's a yellow ochre or a yellowy colour coming in. I don't have any yellow ochre on my palette at the moment. I tend to try and limit my palette, because again, limiting choice actually makes things slightly easier. So again, I've talked and talked. So I'm going to start by just blocking out a basic shape, and I'm going to be measuring, so comparative measurements. So I've got my paintbrush and I'm just looking at, okay, is my turnip a square shape? Yes, it is. Excellent. That makes life so much easier. And I'm going to draw it out using a little bit of Naples yellow, because it's a nice light colour, and I can just, and thankfully, because these canvases are square, that makes it nice and easy to do a little square shape. And I've just put just marked out the corners of where my shape is. Now, looking at my turnip, I can see that the highest point is slightly off to the left. The middle point on the left-hand side is about, the widest point is about halfway up. The right side has got a longish flat area, and then I kind of come under, and it's at a slight tilt at the bottom. So I'm going to put that in, and of course you can use your brush just to see what that angle is, to see if you've got the right angle. Sorry. Mathematic jokes, that's a bit sad. It's very early in the morning for me. Well, not very early. A lot of people will say, what, it's like 9 o'clock for you, Susan. That's not early. It is if you kind of work for yourself. And what I normally do, I'm not a not morning person, but I tend to get painting quite late at night. And I like once my creativity starts flowing, then I want to carry on. So I tend to paint, for me it works really well. It doesn't work for everybody, but for me it works well. So I'll start painting in my studio at about, I don't know, 3 in the afternoon, 2, 3 in the afternoon, after I've had a proper lunch and cleared up. And then I will get cracking. And once I'm in the flow, this is why I have a decent lunch, because I don't want to have to stop to cook. I want to carry on and really, I'm just marking out where that top of the turnip is, and really just concentrate on painting. So I tend to paint till late and then get up late in the morning and do normal sort of worky things that don't involve the studio in the morning, and then studio time in the evening. And that works for me. Everybody's different. Some people are morning people, some people are nighttime people, and then there are others like me who are more like a bit of an exhausted pigeon in the middle. I never stop. Right, I'm looking at, I've put that mark where the top of the turnip is, but I haven't quite got it right. And this is the great thing about art and the initial drawing. You can totally change. When you see something that you think, oh, that doesn't quite look quite right, then move it. It's your drawing. You can do what you want. Right, that actually is nearly at halfway, so I'm just going to just amend that and have it so that it is nearly halfway. I think because it's kind of a big feature in the turnip, it feels bigger than it is, and so I'm making it bigger than it is, so I need to kind of keep an eye on that. And like I say earlier, if you have any questions, do let me know in the chat, and I will answer, or endeavour to answer, all of the questions that come through. I'm just going to mark in here as well where that big sort of light shape is. And then there's a shadow shape that comes up here as well. So I'm just basically marking out rough ideas of where I want things placed. So that is a rough, idea. I'll just move that. Oh, of course, the camera is on manual focus, so I can't bring it up to show you a little bit closer. So on that note, I'm just going to blow my nose. This is awful, isn't it? It's live television, people. I sneeze, I blow my nose. I am a normal person. This is, like I say, early in the morning for me. Hair's gone fluffy and everywhere. No makeup. Not coffeeed yet. That's more tragic, to be fair. Normally I have a cup of coffee at this time in the morning, but no, I'm here with you guys live. So I have done a little outline. What I'm going to do now is I want to block in the background colour. So I'm taking my background brush, which is these brushes from this is a really cheap brush I picked up in a pound shop equivalent. It's actually really good for, you know, those backgroundy things. I've got a really nice brush which I love, which is a Rosemary's Zero brush, and this is great for detail. So I have a mix. I have a mix of expensive brushes, mix of cheap brushes. Some brushes I have literally no idea where they've come from. I think I've no idea where it's come from, but work really well. Just use what you feel is right. So, right, let's get into this background. So I'm going to get a bit of that phthalo blue, and I'm going to add some linseed oil to that because I want it at a consistency that's a little bit runnier than double cream, so sort of a single cream consistency. And I'm literally, this is where everything goes everywhere. I'm going to paint the edges because I just think it looks nice and finished having those edges painted. Personal choice, people can do different things. Yes, it's a pain, but I just think it just has, like I say, it has that finish of something that's finished. A finish of something that's finished. Gosh, you can tell that's pre-coffee, can't you? I just think it looks nice. The only problem is you have to kind of balance it on your fingers to get all the edges, which is yeah, inevitable that I'm going to drop it. I do drop it regularly, to be fair. Most of my clothes have oil paint all over them, even though I have designated oil things. You must have a copy in the morning whether I'm painting and drawing. I always make sure at least 2. Yeah, you see, I normally I have a flask of coffee with me while I'm painting, or a mug or something, and my wonderful husband usually makes me a coffee, but this is like normally I do these live streams in the evening. I'm kind of organised by the evening. In the morning, I'm not organised, and it was more important for me to be here at the right time than to grab a coffee, which we may regret. But, you know, hey, it's a learning curve. So I'm now going to just whiz around the edge of the shape that I've mapped in. And the reason I'm keeping the background really thin with the oil added, and we don't need to worry about fat over thin and all of those things on these little minis, because there isn't going to be another layer. So it doesn't matter. You can use linseed oil on the first layer and it really doesn't matter. There's all sorts of various rules of you must do this, thou must do that. Now you can do whatever you want. The reason those rules are in place, and they're not rules, they're guidelines, is because art has been around forever, basically. Man has always created, if you think back to the cave paintings and things like that, it's just in our nature to communicate by whatever means possible, and painting is one of those methods. So it has been around forever, and people have learnt things that, you know, if you use perspective, things look better. If you mix warm and cool colours together, it looks a bit meh. But if you use warm and warm colours or cool and cool colours, it zings. So colour theory and things like that, it's more of a, people have done this before you and found a way that works. So they have shown you the way that work for them. And if it works for you, use it. That's the whole point. Why invent things twice? So now that I've done that loosely over the background, I'm going to wipe it off with a kitchen towel. It doesn't matter if you go over edges. We're not, you know, remember at school you used to be, you've got to colour in within the lines. Well, That's, in art, you make your lines. So, you know, there's that. And this is the reason why a lot of people believe they can't draw as well. They'll say, oh, I can't draw. I did it at school and the teacher said I was never any good. You know, I went outside the lines. Colouring in when you're a child is about fine motor skills. It's not about artistic talent. So, yeah, just park that and try and play. Play, that's the bit that we forget. So now I have a phthalo blue stain on the back of my painting. So I can darken and lighten in and play with it. I'm going to move that bit that way, then I'm not disturbing it. So now what we can do is have a play with our turnip. So I'm going to start, everybody, like I say, everybody has different methods. This is my method. So I'm going to start by, I want putting in my shadow shapes and my light areas because I want to get that tonal contrast established first. So we've got a lovely shadow on the turnip. I'm going to ignore the shadows on the background at the moment. The shadow on the turnip is kind of curving up here and it's definitely got a kind of blue feel to it. So I'm going to take some of that phthalo blue and I'm going to add a bit of Naples yellow and see what happens. The answer should be it turns a little bit green. But this is phthalo blue, so it has this lovely tinge. And because phthalo blue is nice and cool, as you can see there, you've got this lovely teal, and that actually, I think, works really nicely. So I'm going to put that, it's not very dark, it's much lighter than the under of this, the background of this turnip, and that's fine. This is just the, and I'm putting the paint on, as you can see, really lightly. I'm kind of scrubbing it into the canvas, but I just want to establish that there's a shadow shape there. And then we've got this lovely kind of purple, I love the colour, this purple. So I'm going to have a little play with some purple. I'm going to put that brush down. I'm going to pick up a different brush and just see what that one's like. That one's okay. And for this purple, I'm going to use a alizarin crimson because I don't have any purple on my palette, but I want to make some purple. And again, I'm going to add a little bit of that phthalo blue, just a touch, tiny touch, into that crimson. That's quite dark, and we've got a really dark area of crimson around here. Crimson is a cool red, alizarin crimson, which is nice because it means it turns nicely. It creates almost like a shadow shape. So we've got to get this really dark crimson up here. So I'm going to use, like I say, this alizarin crimson for this wonderful purple. I do have some really fancy purple colours, but I'm working with a limited palette. So I want to stick to the colours I've got. And sticking to the colours you've got also means that you can play and harmonise, and that makes a really nice painting, harmonising the colours. I'm just putting in a little bit of Naples yellow to this alizarin crimson just to see what that looks like, and that's actually really nice colour, and it's not far off the colour of that actual turnip, which is stunning. I'd like to say that was deliberate, but it totally wasn't. So I'm going to put in, just blocking in. I'm not really bothered about accuracy here. I just want to block in where are my purpley colours and where aren't my purpley colours. I'm going into that teal colour at the bottom as well, that's fine, because it turns around. Remember, this is a circular shape, so it's the same principles as drawing a ball. And I think actually that corner needs to be pulled in a bit, so I will adjust the background in there, I think, later. So I'll just draw that in with my purpley colour at the moment. And that's darker at the top there. Okay, so that's an idea. I've got a little bit of a base there. Now I want to block in this area here because we don't want white canvas, because that's not how it is. I'm just going to dip this brush into my linseed oil to clean it a little bit. So I'm just dipping it into the linseed oil, wiping it on my cloth just to clean it a little bit. And I'm going to go over to my straight Naples yellow, and I'm going to put it over here, and we've got this lovely turn on this turnip, where it is quite yellowy. And because we've got the Naples yellow in the alizarin crimson already, that actually looks really quite nice. And then it kind of goes whiter here. But what we're going to do is I'm just going to put a flat colour of this Naples over the whole edge, and we're going to lighten that up with white afterwards. I just want to block in where my colour shapes are. Now there's also a little bit of Naples under here because this turnip has a little sort of thing at the bottom that it's sat on. So I'm just going to pop that there. I'm going to get a little bit of straight Naples yellow and just put that there. It's very light. It's not that light. It's not that back a bit. It is in shadow. And we do have some reflected light on this area as well, where we've got that light bouncing back. So now we've got an idea of where our shapes are. I think my shadow shape actually is a little bit too high there, so I'm just going to add a little bit of Naples yellow and knock that back a bit. So we've got this coming down. Yeah, okay, so that's a little bit lighter over there. It's always fun drawing live. You never know quite what you're going to do. Could be wonderful, could be utter disaster. So I'm going to get some more Naples yellow. I just want to put a little darker area here. Now this, to me, looks kind of orangey. So I've got a little bit of cadmium red up here, and I'm going to add that cadmium red to my Naples yellow. Oh no, that's not the right colour. So I've got a little bit of burnt umber at the top. I'm going to put that in and darken that down. That's just, no, that's not working at all. Let's move that off my palette. Cadmium red, no, that doesn't play nicely with the rest. So we'll take that off. See, the joys of the decision, it's your decision. So I'm going to come back with my burnt umber because I think that is the right colour, and I'm going to come back in with my Naples yellow again. This seems to be the theme with this turnip. That is a nicer colour. So I'm going to add that around the darker areas of this top bit of turnip. Now, I'm not doing, I can see lots of, you know, light shapes and various other shapes. I'm not painting those in. I'm just doing a flat colour at first, and we can darken and lighten and move that around to create the illusion of detail later. So I now want, around it is a lot lighter. So I'm going to come back in with my Naples yellow and lighten that up completely. I haven't used any white so far in this painting. I will, but I haven't used any white so far. That's still too dark. It looks really light, but that may, after it's been said we've not used any white, maybe I'll add a little bit of white to that and see what happens. Oh no, that changes the tone completely, doesn't it? No, that does not look right. That looks kind of like a mushroom. So what happens if we add a little bit of yellow in there? When you're not sure about, if white isn't lightening things, add yellow instead. This is what I do when that's better, that's more natural. When I'm drawing things like apples and the like, I will add yellow to the red or green, depending on what type of apple I'm using, rather than white, because white kind of makes things go a bit chalky, and I don't like that. It's all right for highlights, but for actual things, it's a bit... Now what I've got here is that shadow shape now feels like a highlight, not a shadow. So I am going to come back to my phthalo blue, because I do think it needs some phthalo blue in there, but I might add a bit of burnt umber to give a much darker feel to this shadow, because I still want a bluey tinge to it, and I want it to read that it is a shadow on that lighter area. So I want the Naples involved there. I wonder if we put a bit of that in there, whether that would... that's a nice colour. Whether... Now I've lost my thread because I got all interested in another colour. Right, so I've now got a dark shape under here that is reading as a shadow. And so now we've got a rough plan of where my colours are. I think that shape's not quite right, so I think I will just nip some alizarin crimson and I will just tidy that shape up with the alizarin. So I've now got, I think, a reasonable shape for my turnip. So I'm going to put a bit more, read a bit more into my shadow under here, because then you've got those darks and you can kind of, it feels better. So I need a thinner dark brush, so I'm going to use this as my thinner dark brush. So for my shadows underneath on my background, I've got my phthalo blue again. And because of course we wiped this out, when we put phthalo blue down again, even though it's just blue, there's nothing else added, that now looks way darker. Now I am going to actually add more stuff to this, but what we have is we have the shadow coming out, and actually what I'm going to do is put it coming round over onto this side here, because it just gives, again, it's all to do with the finishing. It just makes it look nicer. And I'm just going to put this in as just pure phthalo blue. I'm going to reshape that a bit while I come down. And that kind of comes out a bit. That actually is a little bit lighter there, so I might change that a second. But under here, it's even darker. So to darken my phthalo blue, I'm going to add some alizarin crimson. So remember when I was saying about how if you use the same colours in multiple places within a painting, it ties those colours together, makes it look harmonious. This is what we're doing here. So I'm adding a little bit of alizarin crimson to this. And just in that area, directly under where you've got your core shadow, I'm putting in a really, that makes it so much darker just under there. And that's giving us now a much clearer sense of three-dimensionality. I'm just going to wipe some of that crimson-y bit off of there, and I'm coming back in with just the plain phthalo. And I'm just going to just quickly readjust this side, because that's kind of more flat down there. And we've got this side comes up a little bit here, and that's just the plain. I want to knock that back a bit, and how I'm going to do that is I'm going to add some white to my phthalo, because we've also got a highlight on the ground, and this is really nice because what we can do now is we can add the highlight over the top, and it doesn't look as if you've changed things. It just looks like that's how it's supposed to be. And so I'm going to lighten up this area here. It gives a little bit more of a three-dimensional quality to that background, because your background is just as important as your actual drawing, really. You want something that's interesting. You want it to read like it ties in together. I'm going to go back to my normal phthalo so that I've got a darker area coming back here, so we've got a nice transition. It's not as dark as the pure phthalo over there, and we can sort of fluff that in and blend that in. We can use a blending brush if we want to. And I want to have a little highlighty area over here because it gets a little bit lighter before it gets darker. And then I want to just pull that dark into here a little bit too. So we've got now an idea of a shadow that's giving more definition to our painting. I'm just going to put that even up a little bit further and really sort of fluff that out a little bit. So we've got interest happening now in our background. So now we can go back to our turnip and do a little bit more work on that. So what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to lighten up this area and really bring this area up. So again, if you have any questions, by the way, do type them in the chat, because I will answer all questions as they come in. She says, let me monitor the chat. That would be a good thing to do, wouldn't it? Okay, yeah, so if you have any questions at any time, do put them in the chat. I do look at it periodically, and I will answer questions. Okay, so what I've mixed here on my palette now is some white with some Naples yellow. So we're still not in pure white. The only time I will put pure white on this is there's a little bit of a highlight just there, and I will put that in pure white, but nothing else. But because everything is so dark, ooh, that looks very, ooh, my white is falling down my palette. Ah, stop, heck, hang on. Let me get my scraper tool and just catch my white and pop it there. The fun of having a palette on an edge is that periodically it kind of drops off. Okay, so that actually is looking a little bit, it's not looking very warm, it's looking quite a cool Naples, and that's because it's got some blue mixed into it somehow. Not quite sure how that happened. That's still looking very chalky and dark. I don't want it that dark, I want more. Let's get some Naples yellow, pure Naples yellow a minute, and pop that on. That doesn't read well, does it? So what's going on here? See, this is the great thing of discovering what's happening and trying to find out how it's working. It may be that well, it's probably that I'm wiping my brush with this paste paper that has blue on it. This is why I try and keep my blue and my yellow brushes separate, then you don't get this kind of weird things going on in between. What I may do is add a little bit of cadmium yellow to this and warm that up a little bit. And put some more Naples in with that cadmium yellow. That's looking better, that's looking more alive. See, it's an experiment, and everything that you come across is just a play of what works, what doesn't work. Let's see what happens when we try something new. So this comes down and then moves in. You want to be a bit careful getting that edge so you don't get the blue, too much blue on there. It doesn't matter too much, but you just want, and I want to blend that edge so that I've got bringing this lighter colour into that shadow a bit, so we've got a transition, because this is a circle, it's not, so that there is a transition as it turns away from the light. Let's put some more yellow on there because we've got some nice yellowy kind of feel. We've got almost like a striped feel going on the patterns of this turnip, and I just want to observe that and then use my brush movements to kind of capture how it works around, how it moves around the surface. We've got some paler things coming on here too. So if now, everything's now looking a little bit in the mid-tones. So I'm now going to, and this happens regularly, where we start off and then we kind of block in, we get a bit in the mid-tone, and then it's a push and pull from the mid-tones over to the darks, and then it's reinstating those darks. So let's get back in there with that alizarin crimson and really kind of put some, now we can start looking at where do things, what's happening with this wonderful turnip. This turnip will be turned into a vegetable crumble later on today. You'll be delighted to know. Nothing goes to waste here. And I have some mandarins from yesterday's painting session, which will make a really lovely pudding. So again, I'm just looking at how the colours kind of move around the form of this turnip. And I'm just placing brush marks that mimic that. It doesn't have to be accurate. We're not a photograph after all. There's a really dark bit there. And then this kind of crimson comes down here. So we're beginning to get a little bit more of a feel of what's happening. We've got a very distinct line here where it gets a little bit lighter. That's a reflected shadow, and that's in the, but it's a cool shadow. So I'm going to add that to this area here and put a little bit of, so it's lighter than the shadow, but it's darker than our bright bit here. So I want to make sure it's always looking at where are my tones, what's happening, you know, what's my tone compared to another tone. So I've got a really dark bit of crimson coming down here, but here it's catching the light a little bit. So I want to lighten that up. So I'm going to put a little bit of a lighter crimson touch here. But again, it's lighter, but it's not as light as here. Here's where our lightest is. And again, I'm going to redraw this area here. It's a little bit different. And I want to start getting, I'm going to leave that just to sink into the canvas a little bit, and then put some more detail in this bit here. I'm going to use my mainly blue brush. I'm just going to add this burnt umber. I love the burnt umber because it's got the warmth to it. You could use raw umber, I guess. I mean, it is very dark here, but I just like the like I say, the warmth that the burnt umber gives you. It's all down to personal preference. That's the amazing thing about art, to be fair, because if we all did the same thing, we'd all have the same print or painting on our walls. Life would be incredibly dull, wouldn't it? So let's get some life into the place and all paint what we love. I'm going to bring this down here a little bit because I think this actually comes round a little further. That's a bit better. And that looks all right on there. Let me get back to my yellowy brush because I want to lighten up that area a little bit because that's reading lighter. And again, with my brush strokes now, I'm moving around the form of the turnip. I'm going to get a little bit more of that alizarin crimson and burnt umber. I'm just going to put that in here. And again, any questions, do pop them in the chat. I do live sketch-alongs on the first Thursday of the month. So next Thursday, where I look at what I do when I'm sketching rather than oil painting, which is a pretty similar technique, if I'm being totally honest. It doesn't change all that much, but things like this and the sketching, that's what I use to inform my oil paintings and my larger pieces of work. So they are like the proprietary, gosh, get my teeth in, proprietary sketches. And like I say, I think it's always a good thing to be able to draw from life, because it sets your eye in, and it's just good practice, really. And it's also something when you think, I was thinking about this because I do enter art competitions regularly, and recently just been informed that I've got through to the extended long list of the Jackson's Art Prize, which is nice because that's one I don't always get through. So that was a really nice surprise yesterday, actually. It was really, although I'm really excited about the work, so it's not the surprise, yeah, because you never know what the judges are thinking. You don't know what they're looking for. realistically. But I was really, really proud of the work that I had done, which is why I wanted to submit it, because I wanted to be seen by more people. And it got through, which was amazing. And now I've completely forgotten. Oh yes, because a lot of competitions these days, and quite rightly as well, say, you know, you've got to defend where your reference picture has come from. So, you know, you need to say, is this, have you come up with this reference? Is this from you have created it, that you've not just lifted it from somewhere? And that's good, because it's basically, they want to know that you've owned the whole creative process, which most people have, even if you've used Photoshop to help aid the composition. It's usually your composition to begin with. But the fact that you're sketching and you're doing things like this means that you can absolutely say without, you know, a shadow of a doubt, yes, this is my artwork, this is how I've created it, this is my thought process. Here are the sketches from life that I did that gave me the ideas, where I was playing with the colour or playing with the medium, brain work. It's too early in the morning without coffee. Just the medium and the surface. That's the word. Do you know? I live in France, and I'm learning French very badly. I'm putting some blue in with this crimson just for the darker areas, and going through the menopause while learning a new language, tell you, not the easiest of things. I regularly forget the words in all languages now, which is super. Not just my own, but French as well. So I spend a lot of my time going, I think this is what I mean. Not sure, can't remember. So now I'm playing around with the ready area, and I'm wanting it to be a bit pinker in some instances. So I think what I'm going to do is get some white, which is quite cheerfully now falling off everything, adding it to that alizarin crimson, which gives me this lovely pink. And I'm wanting to put that just where I've got the highlights of this pink. So bringing it into the yellow a bit. Oh, that's actually a lovely colour when it mixes in with that yellow. And just adding a little bit of an extra dimension to some of this, because like I say, this is the form turning around. So we want to know where our shadow shapes are and where our lights are, and we can do this by adding these different colours in. So the alizarin crimson mixed with the white gives us this nice pinky colour, which when painted over the wet of the naples gives a really nice colour. Really like that, actually. And then if you use your alizarin crimson and then mix it with a little touch of that blue, that phthalo blue, let's try and mix it in with this teal colour. What does that give us? Ooh, that's nice. And that gives us kind of a shadowy shape, but it's of the same colour family because we are using the same colours in this. And that then gives that's a nice colour too. We're getting this really nice rich reds, which is lovely. And what I want to do now as well is I want to get some more of that alizarin, bring this down here. As you can see, I can generally just paint for I ought to keep an eye on the time, really, shouldn't I? What have we got to? Oh, 10 minutes left. Ooh, heat. Okay. Let's finish up, shall we? Because I literally can play and part for so long. So, there's a little bit of dark in there. Let's get that in. That's a little spot on my turnip. And it's surrounded by a really light area. So I'm now completely mixing all my colours. Because what we can do in order to make something look really dark, or something to look really white as well, look really light, is if you add so there's something my when I did A-level art, one of my teachers said to me, if you want something to really stand out, make it high contrast. So if there's a really dark, put a really light next to it, and that dark will sing. If you want a really, and the same going the other way. So if you want something really dark, add something really light next to it. If you want something really light, darken the darks. I'm just going to put a bit of texture in there. Right, now then, let's have a play in this little bit here before I put any highlights on. So we've got some quite lighter areas. They're almost green actually, aren't they? So let's add a little bit of that phthalo into the yellow. That gives me a teal though. I don't really want a teal. Let's have a little look at, add a little bit maybe of, ooh, no, that doesn't work. That was a little bit of sap green. I was just seeing whether if I added a sap green to it, how that would work. But that really doesn't work well with the rest of the painting. So I will not do that. I'll go back to my Naples and phthalo. Let's add a little bit of, no, that's too bright. That was a little bit of cadmium yellow added. Let's have cadmium yellow deep and see what that does. That's a nicer kind of colour. It's kind of a dirty yellowy green up here. And I just want to just put in some little area where it's dark, but it's kind of a weirdish colour. And then lighten that up with some more yellow. Kind of goes around here as well, and on here. Again, any questions, do let me know. Type in the chat. I will endeavour to look at them and read them out and answer them. We will be finishing up in the next few minutes, so if you do have any questions, now's your time, guys. Right, that needs to have more definition to it. So I'm going to get my little brush out and I'm going to go in with my umber. I'm going to add some phthalo blue to my umber, and I'm going to add some alizarin crimson to make it really dark. So that's almost a black, it's so dark. And I want to just touch some areas up here with this super dark colour. And this will bring the contrast and make this look like layers. Hopefully. This needs to be even darker. Let's get more alizarin, more phthalo. That blue and alizarin is really good, makes a lovely brown. Another one that's really nice and makes a really, really lovely dark is alizarin crimson and sap green. That's really good. Oh, brilliant, Karen. I'm really glad you're liking yours. That's super. You'll have to post, if you do have a paint along, do post it on Insta or Facebook or the usual places and tag me. I'm at Sue without an E, Melville Art. It would be great to see what I love seeing what people do. It's so nice. So I've now got that a lot darker, in fact probably too dark in some areas. So I'm now going to clean my brush off using linseed oil and I'm just wiping it on a tissue. You'll post it in the membership. Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Karen. Karen's part of our academy, Smart Art Academy, which is worth joining if you want to have more sessions with me, more lives, more learning. We do different themes every month, and this month in March we're looking at still life, which is going to be really nice, looking at setting up your still lifes, contrasts, colours, what you can use, how you can make it interesting. We're going to be looking at different surfaces, and also what you can use them for. like creating new pieces and things like that. So I've just gone round a little bit with my light there, just putting on a little bit of a highlight. Again, this is not white. This is white mixed with Naples yellow and a little bit of burnt umber. And I'm just I want to have this so that it's obvious it's going round the corner. So I'm trying to give an idea of texture. And I've got this lovely light bit that's falling round the edge almost here, that's kind of just coming over. That's really lovely. I'm going to add a little bit more white to that. So this is white with, and I'm putting a little bit of cadmium yellow with the white. Really, you can see how that really shines, which is so nice. Just add a little bit like that there as well. I want this layered effect. Whether I'll get all that layered effect in today or whether I will come back, I probably won't come back to this, to be perfectly honest. I'm a terror for not going back to things. As it dried, the gouache seems to have lost its red and it's more brown. Yeah, with gouache, the key with gouache is layering. So it lightens as it dries, and the answer is to apply another layer. So you need to, gouache is kind of one of those mediums where you need to be gently glazing that colour on, and if you keep adding it, it will darken. But it does take a little bit of time, gouache. Oil, what you get is what you put on is essentially what you get. But with gouache, it does take a little bit of time. But it works great with gouache, these studies. Right, I'm now faffing on this bit, and the more you faff, the more it gets muddy. So I'm going to stop faffing there. We've got 4 minutes to go. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat while you have the chance. I'm going to now make this whole thing go bing. You've not used it before. No, I love gouache. I use gouache a lot in my sketchbooks. And you'll see it a lot in the sketching club. I'll post little hints on using gouache. Gouache is a fabulous medium. It's very much like watercolor, but it's opaque. But you can use white with it, which I really like, and you can use it in mixed media, have lots of inks underneath and things like that, and really use translucent layers as it comes together. Right, I am now going to put on a little bit of highlight, because I'm seeing a highlight. My viewpoint is slightly different to the photograph, I hasten to add, because I'm sitting a little bit higher up. So I'm now going to put on where my light is shining, and my light is shining just here. And I'm just glazing it across where I'm seeing that highlight. And that's giving that spark. I'm going to put a little bit of a highlight just up here as well, and dot a little bit of the white where we've got a little bit of a shine. And I'm actually going to glaze that white a little bit over this bit here where we've got this turn, because we've got a bit of a shine there, and tidy up this edge, which I'm going to tidy up with a little bit of that pinky white, pinky alizarin. And I think we're nearly there. That bottom area, that's just, let's just add a little bit of, that needs just straightening just a little bit. You see, this is where I can just play. So now we have a turnip. So cool. I still want to mess with this top bit. Can't stop messing with it. I want it to just to just to read a little bit lighter there, and I want to bring that dark a little further down, just there. Put a little bit of extra blue in that dark, echoing the dark that's underneath. Just a little bit. Okay. Okay. I'm going to stop. I am going to stop. I am going to not stop because I've just seen something else. Oh, I'm going to just quickly tidy that edge up just there. There we go. Blend that in a little bit. Okay, that's better. And now what I'm going to do is the most important thing, which we talk about all the time in the Academy as well, is, of course, sign your name. Because, you know, hey, you've done good. I'm just going to sign a little Sue M in the corner down here. Boop. 1 turnip. I hope you all enjoyed that. It was fun. I do love these minis. Let me turn me off a moment and the image poop. And actually what I can do is go, and that's what it looks like next to its turnip. Can't really see that because it's a bit off. Bear with. Right, let me turn my cam link off. Pop. Ooh, you don't want 2 of me. That's not good, is it? Okay, turn that off. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it fun. This is my little turnip mini. Oops, finished. And said turnip. Love the little minis. So I'll have to wash the turnip now. It's got blue oil paint on it before I cook it. It will be cooked, like I say, vegetable crumble later. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was fun. I hope you learned stuff. If you want to learn more, you can find us at the Smart Art Academy. Just pop onto my website, which is www.suemelville.com. Sue without an E always, because my name is Susan. Why would you shorten your name and then add a letter? That's just weird. Move that out the way as well. And if you know me and you follow me, you'll be able to see how well my submissions to the Jackson's Art Prize go. Hope, fingers crossed on that one. And I hope to see you in the Academy or the Sketching Club or something like that at another point. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.